Blackbyrds, formed in 1973 as part of jazz trumpeter Dr. Donald Byrd's brainchild to expose college students to the real world of music. In his own words, to bridge the gap between academia and the real world. Byrd envisioned taking active students at Howard University in Washington, D.C. on a real-world field trip, which would expose them to the ins and outs of the music business. The Blackbyrd.
Okay.
Can you see me?
I can see you. Every superhero needs a theme music. That would be Rockery Park.
Yes.
Keith Killgo, welcome to Win TV. Thank you so much for being here, and congratulations on the 50th anniversary of the Blackbyrds.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Brenda, for having me. It's our pleasure, always.
And for our audience, full disclosure, there's a lot of Coolidge Colts people, because that's where Keith went to high school. We're classmates. Denise
Yes.
Rolock Barnes, our publisher, is a Coolidge Colt. I believe
right.
Chevry, our co-executive producer, is out of Coolidge.
Mhm.
Our marketing and advertising director went to Coolidge for a while, Ron Burke. So this is Colt country.
There you
Here
go.
at the Washington Informer. So this is wonderful. This is wonderful, the 50th anniversary. What does this mean for you and the group?
It means that we have a lot of work to do. We made it 50 years. I hope we can make it 50 more. That'd really be interesting. But anyway, no, it's a great accomplishment. We've been through a lot as far as musicians and the music business and the changing in the music. Because you have to realize when we came into the business, rap music really hadn't taken off. I mean, there was my favorite group, not Gil Scott. With the three guys, anyway, Last Poets,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, rap music really hadn't taken hold quite yet. And unfortunately, we came before the 80s. Of course, in the 80s, you know that Mr. Reagan took all of that out of public schools, particularly schools in our communities. So that opened the door, because we are, as Black people, we are super creative. So we're going to make some way out of no way. And so boom boxes and breakdancing and all of that stuff came as a result of no music offered in public schools. So we had to make that change as musicians, because we were basically, came up in R&B, jazz, rock and roll era, pretty much, with the 60s and 70s and with Motown and all of that stuff. So we were influenced, of course, by those musics and how to write like that and how to produce music in that vein. And then it changed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then that mighty computer with the little buttons on it changed the whole ballgame, which is great. I mean, it's a challenge. The hardest part for musicians is to change. And usually what happens is as Miles Davis did many times in his career, is he's surrounded himself by younger musicians who are more on top of what was going on presently.
And so that's kind of what Donald Byrd did, because he was on the faculty at Howard University. As you and I spoke before, he had a vision of doing something that was different. And that's how the Blackbyrds came about.
Yeah, his whole modus operandi, so to speak, was to bridge the gap between academia and the real world, so that musicians, much like athletes, they are recruited from ankle biters all the way through college to go to the pros. And music, in jazz particularly, doesn't really get that kind of lineage. And so his goal was to bridge that gap, have some young college students to take them on this long extended field trip around the world a couple of times. I don't remember signing a permission slip, but I guess it was okay. And he was able to introduce us to the production of music, how to edit, what the studio looks like, what a royalty statement is. Oh my gracious, how to get paid in this business. And so that was his goal, and we were the bearers of that of his vision, so to speak.
Well, what our viewers and listeners need to know is that with the 50th anniversary being celebrated about the Blackbyrds, you all are putting on a concert at the historic Howard Theater on July the 7th. That's next week. So
Right.
talk about that. What can we expect from that event?
Just to an update, some of those dates have changed a little bit, but they will be on our calendar as those changes go. You know how the business is. We move things around. But yes, we will be on tour starting this next month, in the week and a half.
Yeah, next the 7th. You're going to still be at the Howard on the 7th?
7th, 8th. The Howard has been postponed.
Okay.
It's going to be, and what's we're going to do? We're going to put we're going to do it on the 27th of January, 2024, which is 3 days before my 70th birthday.
Okay, so it's a combination of the celebrating the Blackbyrds and your birthday. That's what that's going to be.
Yes.
We will update our listeners and our viewers and folks that come to the Washington Informer website about that new date. So thanks for giving us the information on that.
Yes.
But let's talk about the composition of the group now, because you on drums and Joe Hall on bass are the only two original members that are still a part of the group.
Yes, Joe and we've been playing together. Orville Saunders is also an original member, but he's not playing with us anymore. And Kevin Toney, who lives in Los Angeles. But yes, Joe and I are the two amigos left. But we are surrounded by some wonderfully talented musicians: Marshall Keys on saxophone, Thad Wilson on trumpet, Sean Anthony on percussion, Roberto Villeda on keyboards. I said that right.
Yeah.
And Paul Spires, just Paul, was one of my students at Anacostia Senior High School.
Wow.
Charles Wright on guitar. So we have a loaded host of talented musicians that have been so brave to work with me because I work them pretty hard. But it's about the music, and they love it. We loving it, and so we're on tour. We're going to be in Pittsburgh, Philly, and all that stuff as well. So we'll be in the area on the East Coast, which is really kind of where the Blackbyrds really got started. Even though we recorded in Berkeley, California, most of our gigs were Detroit, Chicago, New Jersey, New York, and Philly, and so on and so forth.
And then you all also tour in Europe, and and again, chatting with you and Joe, the success in Europe for you all has been amazing, and the way you still have a strong fan base in Europe. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, the UK, France, Germany, Spain, Italy, all of those wonderful places, they really dig into music, in Europe. And I think it stemmed from the fact that in many years ago, we went over to the UK in 1976. And I think at that time, they only had one radio station, or two, maybe the BBC One and the BBC Two. So basically, people relied on live music and recordings. So we would play a concert. We played at a place called the Odeon Hammersmith in London. And when we came out to do stuff with the, sign autographs, they came with bags of albums because they collect records because, again, there wasn't a whole lot of radio, a lot of media that provided that type of music. So people went out and sought it out. So consequently, they still live in that same thing. They love live music. So when we play in London, we play in Paris and those places, we always have a wonderfully sold out audience.
In addition to the Blackbyrds, you are still a school teacher. And we're going to be wrapping up shortly, but I just think it's wonderful that you're able to blend the two.
Yeah, it's a challenge. But I'm at Friendship Public Charter School Tech Prep, which is right down the street from the Washington Informer. and Ward 8, and I have a wonderful, wonderful principal and vice principal and staff and so on and so forth, who recognize that music is an integral part of the development of our young people, and that to be able to play an instrument, to be able to read music, to be able to compose music, to understand the history, just to know that jazz started in the church. Okay, they're not really hip to that. Knowing all these things that go with their heritage is very vital. And of course, I teach. Of course, I'm a historian, and I teach that, and I make them play and fingering and all that good stuff, because it really just gives them another avenue, another opportunity to be able to have something to do after school, before school, on the weekends. And I took a group of kids out to Omega Studios a couple of months ago to show them how they record, what a nano Weber is, what microphone ambience, blah 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 blah, all that wonderful stuff. Because you never know; these are careers, and that's what I'm so happy about.
Well, I appreciate you instilling the heritage of our music with your students, because that too is a part of Black history, which means it's a part of American history.
Yes,
so thank you for that. And thank you for being with us today. Again, I just want to make sure that our audience knows that the concert that was scheduled for July 7th at the Howard Theater will be July 27th. We will post the website
January
for the Blackbyrds, because not only will the tour dates be there, you'll have all the history and all the music from the Blackbyrds available to you as well.
Absolutely.
And so thank you, Keith, very much. I really appreciate it. And thank you for allowing us to sit in on your rehearsal a couple of weeks ago. That was a lot of fun. So take care and keep the rhythm going.
Yes,
thank you so very much.
Okay.